Hey everyone, welcome to the 2019 European Club webinar. Thank you for attending. Really appreciate all the presence here. So today what we're going to be doing is just really getting to know a few of the current students here that come from Europe, getting to get some of their insights about why they picked their MBA program in the US, why they picked Fuqua, and then getting to hear about some of their fun experiences. So what we're going to do is quickly introduce ourselves and then go over a few questions that we have pre-selected and then go over some Q&As from you guys. So feel free to submit any of the questions that you have. I have an iPad here and we'll be seeing them pop in. So just feel free to ask any questions you have. And so I'm Adrian. I'm originally from France. I was born and raised in a small town just south of Strasbourg at the border of France and Germany. And I moved to the US when I was 16 years old and have a degree in chemical engineering from NC State, worked for GE for a few years in operations, and then decided to go to Fuqua to kind of escalate my career and grow faster. So now I did corporate strategy for a company called Emerson over the summer, and probably going back there next year. Anne, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Anne Christine Greim, born and raised in Stuttgart in Germany. So before business school, I worked in different finance roles for Microsoft and Deloitte. I also started a company with my brother back home in Germany. Got really interested in the startup ecosystem and venture capital based on my finance background, and so I work with the Duke Angel Network over the summer and am looking to pivot into venture capital after business school.
My name is Federico Del Bono. I'm from Milano, Italy. I'm a second year here at Fuqua. Before business school, I was actually living in Panama City, Panama, where I moved since 2012. So I left Italy in 2012, and I worked in an airline in the strategic planning, and then I worked for the government of Panama, specifically in education. And this summer I was actually working in Amazon in Seattle, and I will be going back to Amazon after school.
Cool. So I'm Matea Ferk. I'm a first year here at Fuqua. I'm originally from Croatia. I was born and raised there. The majority of my life I was actually a professional skier, and then I decided to move to the US to continue my education, my undergrad degree, and ski for the college ski team. After I graduated from Sierra Nevada College, I ended up in consulting. I did, for the past 6 years, I have done human capital consulting, focused on the people side of technological changes. And I came here to Fuqua to just broaden my business knowledge, to get a holistic perspective of the business. And then after I graduate, I'm hoping to move into strategy consulting.
Hi everyone, my name is Ben Phillips. I'm originally from the UK. I went to Loughborough University for undergrad in the Midlands. Joined Morgan Stanley straight out of undergrad for 2 years in their commodities business, and then moved to a hedge fund to start trading equities. I stayed there for 3 years before deciding that I wanted to get out of that industry, out of the trading industry and into more of the finance industry, banking industry. So I came over to here to come to business school at Fuqua, and I spent the summer in New York working for Barclays, specifically in the technology investment banking division, and I'll be going back there.
Cool.
For graduation.
Well, thank you. Like I said, we're going to go over a few questions now that we've pre-selected, but if you have any of them while we're talking, just feel free to enter them and we'll go over them throughout the conversation. So we'll start with Anne. Why did you decide to pursue a 2-year MBA program in the US?
Sure. So I really wanted to refocus, and I was really looking for a 2-year program as I wanted to hone my leadership and management skills. And I talked to some students in 1-year programs in Europe specifically, and I just realized that I wouldn't get the experience and the opportunities to really hone these skills within 1 year. And so that was the main reasons that I wanted to specifically pursue a 2-year program, as well as I think it just provides more opportunities to network and make meaningful relationships with your classmates, and that was something that was really that I was really looking to get out of business school, and so that is why I decided to do a 2-year versus 1 year.
All right. Anybody else have any comments?
No, just to add on that, I also feel for people who are not maybe sure what they want to do after business school, there's also opportunity to explore different industries, specifically with the internship between the first and second year. So that's also something, to consider.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good opportunity to explore, for sure, in the summer. Cool. Well, so we'll go over to the next question then, and this one will be targeted at Ben. How did you know you were ready for an MBA?
So for me, first of all, it's a very personal decision generally. For me personally, I was working in an industry that was very niche, or especially becoming more and more niche over time. In the trading industry, the advent of computers and algorithms and stuff are really making the job role of a trader much more focused. And in that sense, if that's not something you want to do, if you need a process to broaden your career horizons again. Otherwise, I felt as though I was going down this kind of rabbit hole that I didn't want to go down. So for me, the MBA was a great way to sort of step back for a little bit of time, to broaden my horizons, try a few different things, and get a more broad skill set that's more attractive to employers. So for me, it was a really easy decision.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same situation too, where I was at work before and knew that, I was kind of getting down a rabbit hole too, and wanted to go back to being happy and fulfilled at work. So business school was definitely the answer to that. Kind of cheesy, but it's true. All right, maybe we'll go to one of the audience questions, because we have a few popped up. So how difficult for international students is it to find summer internships in tech, product management, and an engineering background in the U.S.? This comes from Syed. Maybe, do you want to talk about that, Federico, since you worked for Amazon?
At Fuqua, and this is both for the tech industry, but also for any other industry you're recruiting for, we have a career center which provides you professional help. But then we also have specific, what we call professional clubs that also support your recruiting, whether it's the tech industry or other industries. So you're constantly supported from day one that you arrive at Fuqua, whether it's through the career center, which obviously that's part of the institution of Fuqua, or the professional clubs, which are actually led from students. So with that, all of that support that you get from the students and the career coaches, you get to recruit for the tech industries, and you can both do on-campus recruiting, which means that through a Fuqua portal you can apply to specific companies, or you can also do off-campus. Overall, the recruiting is competitive, but I believe with this support you can be successful. So in my case, I was recruiting several different industries. I ended up in tech. But tech is definitely the one where I see most internationals being successful. I would say the top 3 industries which recruit most internationals are tech, consulting, and finance. But you can also get sponsorship with other industries, but that's where the majority of the population goes. And just to add on to that, Duke now offers the certificate of MSTEM, so that's also very attractive for employers, specifically many times tech firms that want to sponsor an international students. This certificate MSTEM, what it entails is that you have to fulfill a certain amount of courses within the curriculum, and that allows the sponsorship of the OPT to go up to 3 years instead of only 1 year after you finish school. So that's definitely an extension that you can do without having to go through the lottery process. And I won't go super in detail on the visa situation unless we get more questions about it, because I think I can go on for like 5 minutes. But that's a bit of a nutshell, and I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. So then the next question is going to be for Matteo. How did you research different schools and programs? What was the most helpful?
Yeah, good question. So I think when I started my research process, I started with actually selecting the criteria, what is the most important for me in a school. For example, the culture and the team environment was really important, so that was like a non-negotiable. So after setting up what the criteria are, then I started researching into the schools. Online, there are plenty of online resources, MBA, Missions, Poets and Quants, Clear Admit, all of those websites have really great resources when it comes to school, also students' profiles, so you get a chance to read and learn what the current students have to say. That's one resource. Another resource is just talk to the current students and alumni. I think that was probably the most beneficial. If you have a chance to connect with a school on a school fair, that was a really good one. Just talk to admissions. And then I think that's about it. Did I miss anything when you did your research? I did quite a bit of research.
Yeah.
I need to admit. But yeah, definitely the most important is to talk to current student. And yeah, of course, if you have a chance to visit campus, that's probably the best way to assess if you're a good fit for the school.
Absolutely, and you can always feel free to reach out to the European Club too, and that's an easy way to get connected with European students at Fuqua, and we can talk with you about what more questions that you have.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Cool. So, Fede, how did you make friends and build community at Fuqua?
Yeah, that's a great question, Adrian. Thank you. So something very special about Fuqua, from day one, you actually put the entire class is put into different sections. So we have 6 sections, which other business schools call them also cohort. So we call them sections, and you pass through 3 days of orientation, where I think you really get embedded with this Team Fuqua concept that's made Fuqua so famous. So that's a great way to make friends, and through that you have your sections friends, and then you become friends with other people, mainly through clubs. So for example, we have, apart from the professional clubs that I mentioned before, we also have social clubs and also activities clubs. So there's a great way to make friends through those clubs, whether you're on the cabinet or you just go to the activities. So overall, I think here at Team Fuqua, we have a very close-knit community, which I think is one of the benefits of not being in a big city, because our life revolves around us, our friends, and the school, which makes it very exciting. And I think it would be very hard not to make good friends at Fuqua.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe just to add on that, I think, you touch on everything. The CLE team was also another important kind of part of your life here at Fuqua. So when you start here, you get assigned to a team of 5 to 6 people, and then together you work on assignments, homeworks, you study together, so they're also kind of a crucial part of your Fuqua experience.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And then, of course, all of the clubs, like, the European Club, we've become so close, and it's a great opportunity to, also from, in your first year, to meet with other people outside of your section, because in your first year you do a lot of stuff with your section and your C lead, and so clubs are a good opportunity to go beyond that and meet other people as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of professional clubs, but there's also a lot of social clubs that are meant to be, to do fun things as a group together and meet great people. So, yeah. All right, maybe we'll move on to another audience question. So what makes Fuqua stand out from other business schools?
Yeah. I think it's a no-brainer for me. It's the culture, Team Fuqua. I think everyone that is on the webinar should have read about Team Fuqua, and it's just it's real. Everyone cares about each other. It's very inclusive, and I think that's very unique about Fuqua.
Yeah, I would echo that. As I mentioned earlier, I've been a professional skier before, so I've been in a team environment my whole life. So that was my criteria number one, that I want to be in a place where team is really valued. And I really got positively surprised by how Fuqua puts the emphasis on the teamwork.
Yeah. And I think also Fede alluded to it earlier, the fact that like Fuqua is in Durham. People usually don't like leave the city for weekends, so everything like is happening at Fuqua or in Durham. So it really creates this community spirit, and which is again really unique, I think.
Yeah. I think a great way to experience that and to understand really why Fuqua is so different is that if you're admitted, you have an opportunity to go to a Blue Devil weekend. And that is just a really great way to learn about the culture and see the people you'll be hanging out with and seeing why Fuqua stands out.
Yeah, I would 100% echo that. I came over to the BDW once I was admitted and met my roommate who I live with now. Met a bunch of people that I then saw again on the first day of school, and it became a very easy transition to back into sort of school environment. So I would highly recommend coming to BDW.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I noticed, which I don't know if you noticed too, at least both in Italy and in Panama, was where I was living before. The alumni of Fuqua and Duke, they definitely speak about. I saw that the MBA connection that they had with Fuqua was much stronger, and they spoke about the school with much more excitement, which I didn't see it reflected in alumni from other schools. So I don't know whether that's maybe because the other schools don't really have as much emphasis on this team Fuqua or the Duke brand, or maybe it's the basketball, who knows, but definitely I noticed that the alumni from Fuqua were the most excited whenever you spoke to them about your interest. So that definitely came across, and definitely made it another reason why Fuqua is so special. That you bring it with you the rest of your life.
Cool. So the next question is for Anne. What should applicants know about North Carolina and the city of Durham? I know you talked about it a little bit already, but if you could elaborate on that. And then, did you experience a culture shock?
Okay, so first of all, I think a very big point is the weather. So North Carolina has, I think, like 213 sunshine days compared to the national average of, 200, 205 or something. So the weather is just like perfect throughout the year, and on top of that, my goal was to pivot into like the startup and venture capital ecosystem, and so I think the Bull City has seen tremendous an influx of investments over the last decade, which open up like massive opportunity for entrepreneurs and investors. Which is why I found Durham like very attractive. It's very evolving very quickly. I think also Durham is, I think, ranked the foodiest city of the South. So you have like all of these like nice restaurants in downtown Durham, a lot of like really nice coffee shops, and so there's a lot of opportunity to step outside the Fuqua bubble and just have fun and enjoy downtown Durham as well.
Yeah, and I've been a big fan of like the outdoors out here too. I go mountain biking in a bunch of trails around Durham. The beach is not far at all, so like to spend the weekends doing that too. So it's a great city for that.
Yeah.
It's also if you're living in a largely populated city now, and probably potentially planning on going to live back in the city after graduation, it's a really nice place to come for 2 years and focus on studying, make some great friends. So I came from London and I'm going to go back to New York, so this 2-year period is a really nice time to sort of take everything in, take stock, and then sort of hit the career path again.
And I think I want to add on to that is that, the Southern mentality is just incredible. I didn't expect that at all. People just really like to talk, and they just like to get to know you, and it's very authentic. And I think it's just a great place to be.
Very hospitable
Yeah.
people. Yeah. Cool. Well, so the next question is for Fede. What activities does the European Club organize for members?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. So the European Club on campus, we focus on 3 main areas. So the first one is a social cultural area. The second one is career and outreach. And then the third part is admissions. So some of the examples, for example, social and cultural, we really try and bring cultural events that Europe is known for here on campus, so that all of the student body can experience them. So for example, we celebrated Oktoberfest, where we had more than 300 people come to our event, so it was definitely very big. 200 of them actually even bought the tickets, and we all got dressed up, so it was very, very exciting. We're going to do celebrate St. Patrick's Day, the Irish holiday in the spring. And then we also do cabinet dinners around to get to know each other, where we cook food from our different countries. Then the second one, where we do career and outreach, we support whether it's European students applying or finding jobs in the US. We our support group, and also for US students or other nationalities applying to Europe. We're definitely trying to do a lot of outreach in regards to alumni and companies in Europe, so that they recruit on campus, and if any Europeans or other nationalities want to work in Europe, they do have that resource. And we're also going to organize, this will be for the first time, a networking event with the regional board of Europe, which they should be here in April, so that will be a first time. So hopefully next webinar we'll have an update around that. And lastly, we do admissions, so Europeans or other fellow students, current students going back to Europe, we organize coffee chats so that you can meet us if we are in your city, because many of us go back home, whether it's Milan, Germany, France, Croatia, or England, and we have other European students that are here with us. So we take advantage of these students going home to do coffee chats and to so that you can meet us, you can ask us questions, we can help you, and it's definitely one of the many activities we do. Yeah. So that's a bit in a nutshell what we do, and I'm open to going in detail on the other activities we do. Yeah.
Definitely keep an eye out for the coffee chats coming up. I know there will be a few of them in December, maybe early January. A lot of us, so Fede, Ben and I did some last year, and we met a lot of current first years that are in this class through those. So it's a really good way to get to meet us.
And we'll buy coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or other beverages.
Or other beverages if it's a night. Yeah.
All right. So we have a question from the audience from Aliana. She's asking, is Fuqua a good fit for someone who wants to pursue investment banking or private equity? Maybe I'll target that at Ben.
I can take that one. So the investment banking route is very well run here at Fuqua. It's very well defined. It basically starts very early. So you will have a cohort of between 50 and 70 people who sign up for the interest in investment banking. And the process, as I said, is very well organized. You have to, a load of companies come onto campus, and they're coming on campus now, just for your reference in terms of how early in the year it starts. You'll get to meet all of those companies, and then what happens over fall break is you'll go up to New York, and you'll spend a week in New York meeting all of those companies, and they'll all have your resumes. And then after that, you'll start continuing to build relationships with each of those companies. And by the time January, the first week of January comes around, you'll know that you're going to go into investment banking that summer. So two things, it happens very fast. And the second thing, it's very open and very easy to get involved with. You basically have to just put the effort in to turn up to all the companies, and it's a very well-defined track. So if you have any more questions on that, feel free to send them my way. I can answer anything about my experiences. But yeah, mainly people go up to New York, and we're seeing a couple of people now go back over to Europe, and also to the West Coast because of the interest in tech.
Okay, thank you. Maitea, can you tell us about housing for students?
Yes, so good question. There are plenty of opportunities or options, I would say, when it comes to housing. It's important to know that there are no student housing, so you are kind of on your own to decide where you want to live. The majority of the students live in the 9th Street area in a few apartment complexes, which is pretty convenient. It's really easy to get together for any study sessions or projects. There are also a lot of students living in housing around, or they found houses and then share it with people. I think another important thing to note is just if you are decided to come to Fuqua, make sure to start your research early. Do your research early and really commit to an apartment early, because especially if you want to live in the 9th Street area, there are also wait lists that you should join if you're really committed to that particular area. I think Ben mentioned he came here for the BDW, where he had a chance to explore the different options, the housing options, find your roommate. So yeah, if you have a chance, for sure try to visit campus during the admitted student weekend. If not, the European Club is a great resource. We can definitely help you with the research and with any recommendation when it comes to housing.
Great, thank you.
And just to add, once you get in, you do receive a housing guide that has every year. So the first years now will get like a survey that they have to fill out in regards to how expensive the housing is. I'm not sure how much you review the apartment buildings, but it asks you certain questions, so it gets updated every year. And once you get admitted here, they send you that housing guide, which you can reference as well, which actually goes in detail in several different areas. So you can look both at price comparison, like square meter comparison, and then like it does tell you this area is more family friendly, this area is more friendly for if you want to socialize a lot. So that's another resource that you will get once you get in.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one. Yeah, I actually referenced that one
me
quite a bit.
too.
Yeah, that one is a good. And then also once you get admitted and you decide to come to Fuqua, you also get added to the Facebook page, the class of, for example, I'm part of the class of 2021, and then a lot of people look for roommates, or some people have a big house and are looking for additional roommates to fill the other room. So that's also an opportunity how to find housing.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. So we'll go back to another question from the audience, from Doran. I am 35 years old, so is a 2-year program still appropriate for me?
I can take that.
Yeah.
Because so I think I'm on the higher end of the demographic spectrum in terms of age. I guess it really depends what you want to get out of business schools. We do have some people, that are older, that are here with their families, and again, Fuqua is very inclusive. But I wouldn't say that age should determine when you should go to business school. If you feel like an MBA really will help you to take your career to the next level, then I don't see any reason why you should not do it. I don't know, do you have anything to add to that?
That was perfectly said,
I definitely see a correlation that the internationals are older. Most of the internationals are around 30 plus, I would say, most of them. And so I would guess you have to ask yourself what you want out of the business school. And for example, if moving to the US and maybe changing careers or industries or getting a big step up in your career growth is within your plan, then the 2-year MBA, in my opinion, is definitely recommended, and even at 35.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're looking for a big move, an MBA degree helps you a lot for that, whether it's a career change function or whatever. Okay, so we will go to another audience question. How's the networking between students and alumni? That's coming from Cal.
I'm taking this as well. So we are currently planning our Weekend Cities trip. So every club is doing a trip during fall break where a couple of students go to New York, San Francisco, depending on the club. So the Entrepreneurship and Venture Capital Club, we do 2 treks, one to San Francisco, one to New York. And I literally went on LinkedIn, looked up some Duke alumni with that started a company, a venture fund, and I literally just pinged them on LinkedIn, and all of them reached back to me within 2 days, and that kind of really speaks to like Team Fuqua and even like the greater Duke. They're very, very, very open-minded, and they're very responsive, and I think that's also very unique about Duke and Fuqua.
Yeah.
So.
And just to add on that, so before coming to Fuqua, I was living in Dallas, and Dallas has a really strong Fuqua alumni network, and they actually organize happy hours and social events in the cities where you get a chance to meet the alumni, and it's actually pretty cool because some of the alumni that I met before coming to Fuqua on those happy hours, I actually see them now on campus recruiting. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had a similar experience in the UK. Like one of the reasons I came to Fuqua in the end is because I got a chance to ping alumni who were based in London, and we went for coffees. Had a great chance to talk about their Fuqua experience, and it was one of the main things that ended up made me make that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm potentially looking at transitioning back to Europe at some point for my career, and that alumni network in Paris or anywhere in France really has been tremendous. Reaching out to them, they've been so responsive. Even in France, where it's a little bit of a smaller network than what you would have in the U.S., still so useful, and definitely going to be the way to get a step into France for my career. So let's continue with the audience questions. Let's see. Hi everyone, from Enrique from Spain. As all of you are part of the European Club, I would ask, why would you recommend Duke 2 years program instead of a Europe standard 1 year?
I think I alluded to that earlier.
Yeah. I would just I'll reiterate basically what you said. I think because everything goes so fast at business school, to do a 1 year program, you may feel as though it's over before it's even begun. You'll be busy making friends, recruiting, trying to sort out your professional career, studying, obviously. And what you may find is after 10 months or a year that you look around and you haven't actually built those relationships that you thought you might have done. I think one of the main benefits of second year is once you've found your place professionally, you have time to really build on those relationships, which are going to serve you much later on in your career. And that extra 6 to 8 months is super useful when it comes to building those relationships.
Something that I saw, at least with my friends that are doing the 1 year in Europe, what they don't have in their experience is, for example, a big part of the leadership in regards to clubs and giving back. Because you don't have any of the second years, because it's a 1 year, you never get in your, I'm not sure if to say personal or professional growth, to be able to be that second year and really give back to the school and to the students. So something very special about Fuqua and the 2 year programs is that your second year, you are making this entire experience better, because the administration takes into consideration your thoughts, and then everything is student-led. So, for example, unlike other schools, the orientation is led by students, while in other schools it's actually like student life that leads that, and the clubs are led by students. A lot of the recruiting and professional clubs, they do a lot of professional guidance, which in other schools is just done by the career center. So I think that's special of the 2 year program as well.
Yeah, and you also get to meet the class above you and the class below you and your class. So that works out to be, I don't know, 1,200 people or something like that you have the opportunity to meet and get to know over that time period.
Yeah. And on top of that, you get to travel during your 2 years. Like we have like gate trips, or like people just organize their own trips. So and I think like if you like that, it's an amazing opportunity to use these 2 years to travel, and you don't get that opportunity if you do just 1 year.
Okay. Cool. All right. So then another question from the audience, since we have 3 second years here. How is your second year structure? Do you have flexibility to intern during this time?
Yes. I'm currently working part-time for a VC firm remotely. In the second year, you get great opportunity to be flexible with your classes. So during your first 6 months of business school, you'll have a structured classroom set. But in your second year, you take electives and you can pick exactly what you want to do. And you also have control to a certain extent over when you get your credits. So you can decide whether to perhaps take on some extra work experience in one term and reduce your credit bearing experience there, and then ramp it up in the next term after that. So you have a lot more flexibility in your second year.
All right. And then there's a question about, does the school plan to increase its visibility in Francophone Africa in the coming years? And that, what we can do for that specific question, please reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with some people that come from, that are involved in clubs that are related to Africa and come from Francophone Africa. And they can definitely help you understand that a little bit better. And then, okay, so what kind of activities inside and outside the university could partners of Fuqua students engage to? So I can answer that one. I am married, and I'm married to an American woman who lives in Durham, and she's involved. There's a whole section called Section 7. She gets involved in a lot of activities with that. I know she lived in Ecuador for a while. So she's heavily involved in LASA as well, which is the Latin American Student Association here. With all the partners, has become close friends with all of them. So a partner definitely feels included in the Fuqua community. There's a lot of ways to make a lot of good friends. And then also partners take leadership positions in certain of the social clubs, like in the wine club or beer club or soccer club, things like that. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities for partners to get involved. And there's also a lot of resources, when the partner moves here to go to where, they can have access to information on how to go around Durham and, how to get involved in Durham at all. So I don't know if you guys have anything else about, partners' life at Fuqua.
Maybe just, to add on that, I feel that partners are literally invited to all the events that are organized on campus. They just cannot attend classes, but besides that, they're really invited to everything. I really like, for example, Fuqua Friday, when everyone's come together and all our classmates that have the significant others or kids or families, bring them to Fuqua Friday. So it's a really, great opportunity to experience that Fuqua community and
just to add, even if I'm doing a long distance relationship, and what's incredible is that even though they're not here physically, they also feel included. They add them to the newsletters, so they receive the newsletter from the different clubs, and they even give them the club t-shirts. So they definitely, all the clubs on campus and all the community makes them feel included, whether they're physically here in Durham or maybe they're somewhere else.
Great. I want to transition to the travel and hospitality industry. Is Fuqua a good fit?
Should I?
Yeah.
I'll answer that because I recruited some airlines last year. So we do have on campus a professional club called the Travel and Hospitality Club. They support anyone recruiting or with an interest in the travel and hospitality. We do have on campus some major US airlines recruiting, such as Delta and American Airlines. And other companies you have to recruit off campus. So for example, Marriott and Hilton, which both are headquarters on Washington, DC, there you have to apply off campus, but they do have Duke in their radar. And then I think United you have to do off campus. So you are supported if that's the interest that you want to go, both prior to preparing yourself to the interviews as well as throughout the process, whether you will do the application on the specific company website or through the career portal in Fuqua.
Cool. So there's a few questions about the accelerated program, so I'll just pick one. So Pranay asked, I wanted to know more about Duke's recently introduced accelerated MBA program for European MIM graduates. Would you consider doing accelerated MBA immediately after MIM?
So I think none of us has done the MIM, so we can't specifically talk to that, but I think it would make sense if you're already here to do it. And as it's such a new program, like we can tell you, we can talk about the experience you would potentially have. But I know they're doing their best to make this an amazing program, and I think it makes sense to pursue the 1-year accelerated program if you've already done another master's program here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alrighty. And then another question has to do with KSI 3. Would you be able to briefly talk about KSI 3 fellowship or the social impact focus of the curriculum?
Yeah, so I did KSI 3. So CASE is the Center of Advancement for Social Entrepreneurship here at Fuqua. And KSI 3 is sort of a consulting practicum where, so for instance, I worked on a team with a Canadian Impact Investment Fund over 2 terms, where we helped establish the fund, fundraising, sourcing deals, and doing due diligence on some of the deals that we identified. And it's a great opportunity if you're interested in impact investing or like social entrepreneurship. There's a couple of classes here: social entrepreneurship, impact investing. Kathy Clark, she's a rock star in the impact investing space. So I would highly recommend to take a look at CASE, all of the opportunities there. But I had an amazing experience with KSI 3.
Great, thank you. So for the interest of time, I think we'll be done with the Q&As with the audience, but I'd like to close it off with maybe one question for each one of you, which is, what's your favorite memory that you've had so far at Fuqua? So maybe we start with Anne and then go down the row.
So last year before Christmas, a group of second-year students went to Colorado to Breckenridge on a ski trip, and we had an amazing time there. It's my favorite event so far.
Here we have a strong rivalry with the University, UNC, University of North Carolina.
Baby blue colors.
My shirt, actually, I won't say it, but it's actually against that team. So anyway, here I wasn't into basketball before coming to Duke, and when you come here, it's definitely part of the culture. So I ended up falling in love with basketball, and I went to the Duke UNC game, and that was one of my favorite memories. Mm-hmm. And I was very excited that Obama came to the game, so I freaked out. In Italy, Obama was like a huge celebrity, so that was for me my favorite memory. Even though we lost, looking at the game and having Obama in front of us, watching the game with us.
Very, very cool. So my favorite memory was during GI, or the Global Institute, which comes right after orientation. It is a month of classes in combination with career management classes. So that the particular memory is related to the team building activity called Triangle Training. So the whole first year class goes to this team building activity. I don't know, in the woods or in the nature. You get different obstacles and tasks that you need to accomplish as a team. And those tasks, at first, when you look at them, this is just impossible to accomplish. But then when you start working as a team and brainstorming and working together, we were actually able to solve the challenge or kind of achieve what was the goal of that particular challenge. So I thought that was really, really unique and really memorable for me.
Mine probably would have been the Carolina game, but for a close second, a bunch of my section mates, about 12 or 15 of us, drove 3 hours to a small town called Asheville in January this year. It's a brewery town. It's beautiful. We hired a house for the whole weekend and just had a great time.
Great, a lot of fun times. I can't believe nobody mentioned the Oktoberfest that we just had last week.
But it's your turn.
Yeah, I guess it's mine, yeah. The European Club organized Oktoberfest, partnered with a bunch of different clubs. We had, I think, at one point over 300 people in this one location.
The Tavern.
The Tavern, yeah, which is part of like the Fuqua traditions. But yeah, it was just a great time. We were dressed up in German costumes and played some games and just had some. She made an amazing German music playlist. Yeah, it was a great time. But cool. Well, so thank you so much for attending. We recorded this session, so if you'd like to access it later on, I think we'll send out the link to you via admissions. And yeah, we really appreciate the time. We hope this was valuable for you, and we look forward to hearing from you.